I want to thank you all for joining us today. My name is Wayne Katz. I'm coming to you from the North Carolina Center for Afterschool Programs. And I am happy to have you all here today as we launch a brand new and exciting resource that we've been developing over the past year. It's been developed in partnership with our STEM Coalition, or STEMCO, and it's called the After School and Industry Partnership Playbook. And the idea is that either an after school or an out of school time program or a local business can pick up this playbook and they can start to use the step-by-step guides in this tool to implement career connected learning in these out of school time informal environments. That's going to have a lot of benefits for our students, and it's also going to benefit local businesses as we kind of talk about developing North Carolina talent for North Carolina jobs. I do want to take a quick second. I want to see who's in the room with us today. So I'm going to put a little poll up here. Give me 1 second. I'd like you to first vote in our Zoom poll. I'm going to launch it right now. Tell us if you're an after school or out of school time provider, if you are a industry or business partner, or if you're kind of somebody else. Drop those votes in there. And then I'd also love it if you could react. Give us a heart if you're an out of school time or after school provider, because we love after school. Give us a party popper if you are a business or industry partner, because we want to celebrate you being here today with us. And give us a little round of applause if you're another type of partner, because we want to just give you a round of applause for being here too. There we go. Seeing all sorts of reactions. Love it. All right. This is great. This is helping me kind of understand who is in the room today, which is important because as you'll learn, this playbook is a tool for different types of partners, and different pieces will be applicable to folks from like kind of different sectors here. All right. Well, thank you all for voting and for reacting. I appreciate that participation on a Thursday morning. And we're going to move right along. So we are going to try to cover a lot today in a short window, which means I'm going to be talking a whole bunch at you, which is actually not my preferred method for delivering this type of information, but there's a lot to cover. With that being said, I love questions and I welcome questions. So if you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat, or feel free to interrupt me. I will not be offended, I promise. If I don't see it, I have my colleague with me, Sebastian Pruitt. He's going to be monitoring the chat as well, and he will not be shy to interrupt me and bring your questions forward. We're going to cover a lot of stuff today, like I said. We're going to talk about the STEM Coalition and NC-CAP briefly to make sure you're familiar with who we are and what the STEM Coalition is. We're going to introduce the playbook to everybody. What is it and why does it matter? I'm going to talk a lot about how to use the playbook. In fact, the bulk of this presentation is going to be how to use the playbook. That's being broken down for different types of partners. So how to use it if you're an after school or out of school time provider, how to use it if you're an industry partner or a local business, excuse me, and also a section on bringing those two sides of the table together to build a sustainable partnership. Then finally, we're going to cover some additional tools and resources to make career exploration successful in your program. And then I'm going to end with a call to action, because who doesn't love having more on their plate, right? All right. So let's start with a quick introduction to NC-CAP. I assume most of us are probably familiar, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but I do want to make sure we cover this real quick. So NC-CAP, or the North Carolina Center for After-School Programs, oops, let me admit more people, is our comprehensive statewide after-school and expanded learning network in North Carolina. Our goal is to work with many different entities to increase access to high-quality after-school and expanded learning opportunities for all children and youth in North Carolina, especially those at risk of education failure. Now, when I tell people that, sometimes I still get kind of like glazed looks on their faces, like, what does that actually mean? What do you do? So I tell people we do four main things. We support, so we provide technical assistance and professional development and things like that for after school and out of school time providers in North Carolina. We inform. We consider ourselves a clearinghouse of information. So we report on best practices, research trends, and opportunities for out-of-school time providers in North Carolina. We advocate at the local, state, and federal level for increased access. And finally, we convene. So we convene virtually, like we're doing today. And we also convene in person for like regional sessions and regional work. And we are the only statewide convening for after school and out of school time providers specifically in North Carolina. If you want to learn more about us, you can always visit our website. It's ncafterschool.org. We are a small but mighty team. Although we are a growing team, we've moved from 3 employees up to 4. So Annie Jones with us today, actually. Welcome, Annie. Elizabeth
Thank
Anderson is
you.
our director at NCCAP. I am a programs manager. Annie Jonas is our new program manager for resilient after school programs, and Sebastian Pruitt is our program coordinator.
Nice to meet you, everyone.
Happy to have you all here. Real quick, when I talk about NCCAP, I can't not talk about the state of after school in North Carolina. It's the reason that we're here and the reason we do our work. There are about 192,000 students in North Carolina participating in after school programs. There are about 666,000 students who would participate in a program if they were able to. That means there are a little under 200,000 students who are alone and unsupervised after school every day. This statistic really stuck with me when I started working in NCCAP. For every student in after school in North Carolina, there are 3 waiting to get in. And those barriers can be a variety of things. It could be cost. They could be too expensive for a program. The availability might be limited. There could be wait lists, or there might not be a program in the area at all. Travel can be tricky for families to get to and from programs, and the hours can also be tricky if parents aren't working that traditional 9 to 5 schedule. After school programs in North Carolina do a lot. Everyone who's worked in after school has probably at some point in your career heard, aren't you guys just like kind of like babysitters after school? And we know as a profession, we do a lot more than that, right? But here's some numbers to back that up for all of us. Over 70% of students are getting help with homework. My favorite statistic is that 3/4 of all students are doing some sort of STEM learning in out of school time programming as well. 84% are doing physical activity. They're building social skills with their peers, they're building confidence, and they're learning responsible decision making. But what really sticks out is that bottom one. 96% of North Carolina parents are satisfied with their children's after school program. North Carolina was actually #1 in the country when this was recorded. So give ourselves a round of applause. Parents are loving what we're doing in after school. And after school is important because it can really open doors for students, right? Excuse me. School and out of school time programs provide space for students to develop those social skills, find academic enrichment, have healthy snacks and meals. It's a great place to interact with positive role models who are not evaluating the students, right? So it's a little bit different than being in a classroom with a teacher who's going to be evaluating them at some point. They're spending time safely while out of school. They're getting new experiences and exercise. They're building their self-identity and potentially their own STEM identities. And it's a great place to explore career options and opportunities. And that's what we're going to really dig into today. So that's the brief introduction for NCCAP. Let's talk a little bit about the STEM Coalition, or STEMCO as we lovingly call it. Oh, and I just see this question in the chat. This deck can be shared out. Yes, I'd be happy to email it out to everybody. So the STEM Coalition has had 2 cohorts thus far, one a couple years back, and their goal was to bring together partners from across sectors in North Carolina. So obviously after school and out of school time, but also traditional classrooms, community colleges, policymakers, businesses, to examine what were some of the issues within STEM pathways in North Carolina. And the first STEMCO identified these kind of top 5 issues, these top 5 barriers. There was access, awareness, collaboration, equity, and funding. And they produced a really powerful document that you can download on our website, I might add. It's a handbook for after-school and out-of-school time providers to help start to address some of those issues in their programs. There are short-term and long-term strategies, potential partners, and resources for addressing those top five barriers. This one on the left here, for example, is equity. There are strategies, long-term strategies, and partners and resources to make sure that these programs have the tools they need to be successful in knocking down some of those barriers. We reconvened the STEM Coalition because we wanted to take addressing those issues a step further. And we decided that one of the best ways to do that would be to facilitate partnerships which ensure students can explore career options in out of school time or informal learning spaces. That can help address many of the issues outlined from that previous STEMCO's work. And our new playbook is going to have a really heavy focus on three of them. So awareness, collaboration, and equity. We were very lucky. We had over 30 unique perspectives for this STEMCO cohort for 2024, 2025. We had a lot of participation and voices from across sectors who contributed to the development of our playbook. A quick shout out to everyone on this list you see here who took time out of their busy schedules to join us for one or all three of our in-person convenings. It was a heavy lift, and they spent a lot of time making sure this playbook came to fruition. I'd like to point out, we also didn't know we were developing a playbook when we first met. The STEM Coalition came together for our first meeting this time, and we were like, how are we going to address these top five issues? And we want to use local business and careers as a lens to help address that. And the playbook was the brainchild of all that work and all that time coming together. So, what is the playbook? I keep talking about it. Let's define it real quick for everybody. So the playbook is a practical guide designed to foster sustainable collaboration between out-of-school time providers and local industry partners. At its heart, the playbook is all about opening doors. So it's opening doors to careers, to community partnership, and doors of opportunity for young learners. The playbook helps out-of-school time providers and local businesses work together to create interest-driven learning experiences through authentic exposure to careers, which we know through research and anecdotally can significantly influence the decisions students make about their education, their training, and their futures. Students who are not exposed to new career pathways and options before they're kind of rounding out middle school typically don't stray far from what's familiar to them when they're considering what they're going to do with their life. So this exposure can be really pivotal in changing a student's pathway. So let's talk about the playbook. This is all about how to use the playbook as an organization. And whether you are an after school or out of school time provider or your local business, it's built for you. The playbook is filled with a lot of different things. There are step-by-step guides. There's a lot of detailed documentation. There are tons of strategies and a lot of tools that are built in the playbook so that you can kind of start from square one with, I have an idea. I want to make the playbook happen. I want to make career connected learning happen in my program, or I want to contribute as a business. And you can make that a reality. So we've organized the playbook into three sections. Section one is where you're going to jump to if you are an after school or an out of school time provider. So you'll kind of go through that introduction and you'll continue on to section one. If you are a business or an industry partner, you're going to read that quick introduction. You're going to jump to section two. There are different tools in both sections that are specifically applicable to those different sectors. If you have kind of tackled section one or section two, and you have a partnership that's already been formed. Section three is about building and sustaining that partnership over time. So I'm going to jump into part one here. So how to use this if you are after school or out of school time provider. Real quick, react again for me if you're an after school or out of school time provider. Give me a heart, raise your hand, whatever it might be. There we go. So this is going to be the section that you want to jump to first if you're reacting right now. So for our after school and out of school time providers, we know that these programs are a powerful and flexible environment and that you aren't bound by the rigid schedules and curricula of the school day. We love our school days. We want to supplement what they're doing, but we are a little more flexible than a traditional school day, right? And out of school time programs are uniquely situated to work outside the box. And you can do things like take field trips, host informal and low pressure career talks, use play and project based learning to simulate real world work environments, and you can provide hands on experiences to help students explore what excites them. There's a lot more flexibility in an out of school time program than in a traditional classroom, which is really valuable as a program and then also for our industry partners. And the research backs that up as well. The studies show that students who are exposed to career options early are more likely to graduate from high school and to pursue post-secondary opportunities. Students are also likely to have higher motivation and academic engagement and to develop clearer goals and stronger personal agency around their own career trajectory. Early exposure can really help level the playing field for students who might not have access to career role models at home. And it's a good way to remind students that, if they can see it, they can be it. These experiences can really help change trajectories for students. All right. So I'm going to get into how to use the tool. There are a lot of guides in each section. So we're still in section 1. This is for after school and out of school time providers. The first part is a guide for engaging industry partners. Step 1 in that guide is to identify potential partners. This goes through and tells you how to find partners and then also what to do to reach out to those partners, right? So after you identify some partners, what kind of research and prep should you do? Let's do a little bit of homework before we send that cold email or cold call. When you make initial contact, what is that going to look like? We do have sample email templates. We talk about the power of voice-to-voice communication. Sometimes a phone call gets you a lot further than an email. And then we also talk about follow-up, right? I've definitely been in a position where I've essentially cold called or cold emailed someone, and I was really excited about it. I didn't hear back for a while, and I got kind of depressed about it, right? So we talk about strategies for following up that are effective and like not too intrusive. And we remind folks that one email or one phone call might not establish a long-lasting relationship. A lot of times, persistence kind of pays off in these situations. And then finally, once you have made that contact with a local business or industry, invite them in. So bring them to your site during programming hours. Have them come to a family night or a community event before you even ask them to start that career connected learning piece. Make sure they understand kind of what your program is all about and what the value is before you have an ask of them. That can go a long way and that trust building aspect of this relationship. Immediately following that section of the guide, there's a big section on positioning the value of out of school time. So a lot of businesses don't really understand what happens in out of school time or after school programs. Nonetheless, how an out of school time program can really help them meet their own goals, right? So part of this guide is helping them understand what that is and reminding them that out of school time programs are helping working families. The people who work in their business are probably benefiting from out of school time programming every day. It's also a great way to grow local talent. The phrase I use all the time is let's grow local North Carolina talent for local North Carolina jobs, right? This is a great pipeline for industry to help students be aware of their careers and to potentially pursue those careers. And then you also offer visibility and exposure for these businesses and organizations, right? A lot of times, businesses do have philanthropic goals, and working with youth and youth development is a great way to meet those goals. There's also a guide for the tiers or types of engagement that an after-school program can offer a local business or industry partner. So this kind of gets into what they look like and what the benefits are. So one-time events are, career talks, panels, field trips. They're usually quick exposure, so they make kids aware of careers, but they're also typically like a low lift when you're asking a partner to work with you on these. Recurring visits, so kind of monthly industry sessions or project-based learning, they're a little deeper, they're a little heavier lift, but they're going to build depth and connection with students. Mentorship, taking it one step further, with one-on-one or small group meetings, there's a lot of personalized guidance and a lot of identity building in students with mentorship. It really helps students kind of go from understanding what a career is to seeing themselves in that career. And then there's also much deeper engagement, like internships or externships. So that would be like job shadowing or potentially work experience. These are going to help students build real world skills and confidence. They're also going to directly benefit the business or the industry that you're partnering with. They're going to get tangible results from those. We have an additional guide on logistics and making it all work, right? So if you are planning a one-time event versus sustained engagement or mentorship, there are different considerations to keep in mind for those. And there are guides and checklists and trackers to help with each of those in the playbook. Um, these are a great way to kind of plan out the events before you make an ask of a local partner, uh, and it helps ensure that you are kind of put together and feeling organized before you're asking someone to jump in and partner with you. So that was all part one for our after school and out of school time providers, right? I told you there's a lot going on in this playbook, in this toolkit. Part two is if you are an industry partner or a local business, you would read that introduction section of the playbook and jump to this section. This might be a business who is looking to give back to their community and wants to get into youth development work, but doesn't really know where to start. I would definitely recommend if you are considering working with this playbook and you find a local business you want to work with, share the playbook with them too. Make sure they have access to this resource as well. The first part of the industry partner section is what are out of school time programs? Because I do think it's important that we define that for these industry partners. I mentioned that a lot of people, and we've all heard at one point, might think of after school, out of school time as babysitting, right? So it's important to define what's happening in an out of school time program and why they're so important. Why do they matter? We've broken down a little bit of why do they matter to the community. So, out of school time programs help reduce juvenile crime and risky behavior. They improve academic outcomes and school day attendance, and they also support family stability. But why do they also matter to businesses and industry? Out of school time programs are an excellent opportunity to help shape the next generation of workers and leaders. They can help us build a more diverse and local talent pipeline for these local North Carolina jobs, and they can give back in a way that's visible, meaningful, and aligned with company values. There is a lot of benefit and a lot of meaning in working with students in these informal learning spaces. So as we continue with this guide, we remind folks that whether you are a big corporation or a small business, partnering with after school programs is high impact and it's low barrier. It's a great way to invest both in your community and your own long-term success. You're going to be developing your own future workforce. You're going to be supporting your own employees, those who have young children who are in after school or summer camps, right? You're going to enhance your community reputation. It's going to be visible the impact you're having on these young people. It's going to promote inclusive practices. A lot of students who attend after school and out of school time programs live in under-resourced areas. By providing these role model experiences, you're including students who might not otherwise have access to them. Then finally, you're boosting your own company's sustainability. By cultivating a workforce and a talent pipeline in your community, you are setting kids on a path to want to work in your industry moving forward. We also have a guide for entry points for engagement. This graphic might look pretty similar to one we saw in our after school and out of school time provider section. This has those different types of engagement with some examples and the time commitment that a industry partner can expect for each one. So a one-time guest speaking event is going to have a little bit of prep time and probably be, 30 to 60 minutes worth of their time. A site visit or a field trip is going to have, as we all know, a little more prep time on the back end, right? But 1 to 2 hours on the day of. Hands-on activities, they might need to partner with, an out-of-school time provider to make sure their activity is like age appropriate for the students you're working with. But on the day of, it'll be about an hour. Mentorship, that can really vary widely, right? Depends on what the program provider and the business side is going to make the most sense for them. But you're going to meet regularly with those students in groups or one-on-one potentially. Internships or externships. These are an opportunity to shadow or get part-time experience for older youth. A great time to explore that is in the summer. A lot of these students are just not in school in the summer, right? So they have a lot of free time to work with companies on a more regular basis. But I also wouldn't discredit the opportunity to engage with students in internships during the school year as well. A lot of folks are pretty free after 3 o'clock. And then finally, as a business, you could serve in an advisory role. This is going to be kind of a low lift option where you're helping out of school time programs align activities with industry needs. And that could be as little as quarterly meetings or feedback sessions with the program. We also have a guide for out of school time providers on working with students. There are some considerations that they might not have thought about beforehand, such as background checks. A lot of programs are going to ask a local business person to have a background check before they come on and work with their students. That's not a reflection or indication of how sketchy that person may or may not be. It's standard protocol, right? Um, we talk about behavior expectations in the setting of after school time programs. They're going to look a little different than a classroom. If a industry partner's last experience with students was when they were in school, they might not understand that these students might not be at their own individual desks. There might not even be tables at all, right? That students are going to be excited and engaged with them look a little bit different. I know one of my favorite things about working with students in an out of school time setting is that they have a lot of energy after school. I'm seeing some nodding from my audience. Yeah, they have a lot of energy. Which I think is great, but can also be overwhelming. So I want the business partners to be prepared for expecting lots of questions, lots of excitement, and lots of like silly and weird questions too, which is totally fine. And then finally, we give the industry partners some tips for success for working with young people. There's also a guide for measuring impact and sharing your story. So we ask folks to think about what they want to track or reflect on through this process. So how many students did you engage? What types or how many activities did you support? What did students say or create as a result of your work with them? And what feedback did you receive from out of school time staff or students? There are also tools for telling your story in the playbook. So we have tools for making social media posts, for talking about your work in internal newsletters, annual reports, and press releases, because this work is inherently valuable. You are shaping the lives of young people, but it's also beneficial to get the word out there so people can see the impact your business is having on these young people every day. Okay, so that was part one and part two. So part one, as a reminder, is for our after school and out of school time providers, starting from square one. Part two is for our business or industry partners, also starting from square one. But what if we have moved past square one? What do we do next? We've made a connection, we've made a partnership. Well, now we have to bring it all together. And part three is for that specifically. So part three is going to focus on sustainability and like the long-term goals of partnership. So in the playbook, we say that creating strong, sustainable partnerships between out of school time providers and industry partners doesn't happen overnight. In fact, a lot of times partnerships take a long time to build, and they do take intentional planning, trust building, and a shared commitment to the students at the center of our work. So I always tell people when you're reaching out to a business or you're reaching out to an after school program for the first time, uh, sometimes the stars align and things get started like that month, and then it's great. Sometimes it can take 6 months or even longer to really get a strong partnership going, and that's okay. And that can just be part of the process. Now, part three has a lot of depth to it. There are step-by-step guides for partnership development. Each of these kind of bullet points has its own section, its own guide in the playbook. So there are guides for identifying strengths and needs, both in the out of school time provider and with the business. Low lift entry points. A lot of times it makes sense to start with a low lift entry point as you're moving into that relationship, and then you can build up to something a little more complex, right? So it might make sense to start with a career day or an activity rather than mentorship or an internship, because that's a much heavier lift and take a lot more planning. It talked about shared visioning, so making sure that both the out of school time provider and the industry partner are having their needs met and they're both benefiting from the partnership. How to formalize a partnership. So, do you need like an MOU, so a memorandum of understanding? There are sample templates in the playbook for that. I always recommend involving students in the planning as well. Students are a vital part of this process, so bring them into the planning procedures. And there are also some best practices for communication. This is where a lot of partnerships can start to break down. So if you don't have dedicated points of contact, that can be tricky for communication. If you are having a hard time getting in touch with someone, what's the protocol for like reaching out if you don't hear back from them? Should you reach out to someone else? Having these kind of established communication norms can really make an impact on how effective the partnership's going to be. And then finally, there's a section for reflecting and adjusting, which I think is a really important part of the process. Let's say you've had a successful event, even if it went great, it's important to sit down as kind of both sides of the table to reflect on what was successful, what were the challenges, and how can you adjust it moving forward to either make it more successful or change the course if you need to. Now, this is the part that I get asked about all the time. There are four sections on funding and sustainability because we all know, especially those of us who work in the out of school time arena, that funding can be really challenging. And partnerships really work best when both sides are bringing something to the table, right? So our industry partners can offer things like their time, their mentorship. They might donate supplies or paid internships or site access. Out of school time providers can offer things like their space, their staffing, obviously access to students, program design, and data collection, but neither partner should be bearing the full burden of all the work or the full burden of all the costs. And that's where something like external funding can come in. So there are guides for finding support and funding the work. So there are guides for finding local support that can help fund this kind of career connected learning in informal spaces. There's a guide and a tracker for budgeting for hidden costs. I mentioned earlier, background checks. Those aren't free, right? Those are hidden costs when you're working with a local business. Transportation, if you want to go on a field trip. We all know there's a lot of costs associated with a field trip that a business might not be thinking of, right? So budget for those hidden costs as well. There's a lot of guidance in here for that. And then finally, ways to sustain the partnership over time. Because the bottom line, the goal is that we want to have true partnership between our out of school time program and our industry partner. We want to build something long and lasting. And for students, this is going to be, access, exposure, and their belief in their own future. This can be really, really impactful on our students. For our after school and out of school time providers, it's going to provide relevance, depth, and enrich learning to their already like extensive programming. And for industry partners, we're talking about their future employees, stronger communities, and meaningful corporate engagement, with this youth development. I like to say these partnerships are more than programs, that they're pathways. And together, out of school time programs and industry can build them. I've seen some love in the chat. I appreciate everybody. Oh, and I just got a message that maybe not everyone can see my slides. Can y'all see my slides? I'm seeing some people nodding, some people shaking their
Yes,
head.
I can
Yes.
see them.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing for 1 second, and I'm gonna reshare them because at least some people can't see them. So let me see if I can fix that. Just bear with me for 1 second, y'all. Okay. Can I get another thumbs up or a head nod if you can see? Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you bearing with me. Okay. So let's talk about some tools and resources that will help supplement what we learned about in those first three sections. And the first one is just a part of the playbook, actually. So as a reminder, section one is for our out of school time providers. Section two is for our industry partners. Section three is bringing those two together and making sure that relationship is sustainable and is going to last long term. Uh, Section four is the secret bonus section. It is the appendix, and it is chock full of stuff to make this process as easy as possible. We know exactly how much is on the plate of after school and out of school time providers. We know how busy people are pretty much in any job they might work at, right? So we want to make sure that this tool is effective and it can make the process of partnering as easy as possible. So the appendix is filled with all sorts of things that are going to help with that process. It has sample emails for reaching out to out of school time providers or to businesses. There are communication plan templates. So how are you going to communicate about all this great work that's happening? There are funding and budget trackers. There are sample MOUs to help formalize agreements between out of school time providers and industry partners. There are a bunch of different planning checklists for field trips and site visits or people come and talk. There are impact checklists. There are media and storytelling tools in the appendix as well. Behavior and expectation guidelines, both for the students and for people coming into out of school time programs. There's a partnership planning worksheet and an outreach tracker. All of that is a part of the playbook. It's in the appendix. And like I said, it's kind of a beefy appendix. Now I know what you're all thinking. Wow, the playbook sounds incredible. It's life-changing. How do I get my own copy of the playbook? Yes, I can read your minds. You can download it on our website. It's totally free. You don't need to buy anything. We want you to download it. We want you to use it and implement it in your work. We want you to share it out with other people too. And Sebastian is dropping that link in the chat right now. But ntafterschool.org is our website. It's on our STEM Hub page. So /STEM-hub will bring you right to the playbook itself. And I hope you all take advantage of it and download our playbook. There are some other resources I'd like to share and talk about real quick before I open the floor up for questions. While you're on our website and at the STEM Hub, I would encourage you to also explore our STEM lesson plans because we have career connected learning pieces for our STEM lesson plans. This is an example of one of our plans that I just pulled a screenshot from our website. The lesson plans on our website are really cool and they're really robust. They are correlated to North Carolina learning standards. They are available in Spanish and in English. They are materials rich and they are experiential and they're designed for after school and out of school time learning. Each one has a bunch of different components you can see here, right? So there's a snapshot. The snapshot is if you want to get an idea of what the lesson is before you really dig into it. It's kind of the Cliff Notes version of the lesson. There are fast facts because a lot of after school and out of school time educators might not feel like content experts in STEM, and that's okay. You don't have to be an expert to deliver a high quality lesson. So these fast facts help you answer some of the frequently asked questions from students and help you feel a little more comfortable. There's a lesson plan itself, which can be pretty like lengthy, but we break it down into really digestible steps for everybody. There's a STEM to go portion. It lets you provide an activity for students to take home with them to extend that learning with their family. Um, these are provided because you've probably experienced it if you have children of your own, but you ever have that time where you ask your student, how was school today? Or how was after school? Like, it was good. What'd you do? I don't know. I've seen it happen 100 times. And I'm like, as an educator, it like kills me every time. I'm like, oh my gosh, you did so much cool stuff today. So having a STEM to go activity can remind them, oh yeah, we learned about Magnus gliders today, X, Y, and Z. We can extend this at home. And then we're starting to add these STEM career pieces to our lessons as well. I'm going to dig into that a little further here. So this is for our Magnus glider lesson, which is all about the force of the flight and Bernoulli's principle. So it's how things fly. So our career connection pieces really try to connect the topic to like North Carolina specifically. In North Carolina, we have a proud aviation history because we were the first in flight. I know Ohio will argue about that, but we were number one. Um, and Each one of the career connection pieces highlights three different career paths a student could potentially pursue if they're interested in aviation, for example. So for this one, we have an aerospace engineer, which is a ton of school and a ton of training, right? We have a commercial pilot, which is less school but lots of training. And then a drone pilot is less school and less training out of high school. So we talk about the different career paths, the training required, and what the expected salary is in each of those careers to give students a real idea of what pursuing those careers would look like, what it would take, and what their lifestyle could be like if they do pursue that career. Then we also try and tie in a little bit of local North Carolina like flavor as well. So in this one, you can see we highlighted Ryan Garner. He was the youngest African American to receive a pilot license in North Carolina at just age 17. And he's pursuing his own pilot's commercial pilot's license now. All these lessons are also available for free and are accessible on our website. So I encourage you to take a look at them and to download them as well. If you are a local business or industry and you realize that your industry is not reflected in the STEM Hub, reach out. I can help write a lesson that can get you on there as well. Now, because career connected learning has become such an important issue for a lot of programs, we happen to have another really great opportunity that kind of coalesced with the launching of the Playbook. So the STEM Next Opportunity Fund has developed the Career Connected Learning Framework for out-of-school time providers. And they're going to have their own webinar about this on September 10th at 3 o'clock. And I definitely recommend attend it if you can. This is kind of a tool, they're calling it a bold, field-informed tool designed to accelerate and expand career-connected learning and after-school and summer programs across the country. The way I see it is that this tool is a complement to the playbook. So the career connected learning framework is going to scaffold a lot of this career exploration content for out of school time providers to make sure it's effective and successful. And the playbook is going to help you take what you learn in that framework and execute it with a local partner. So I definitely recommend downloading that resource. It's also free on STEMnext's website and checking out their webinar about how to use this resource as well. Then finally, I do have a call to action before I get to questions. I told you I was going to add one more thing potentially to your plate here. But if you're interested in pursuing career exploration in your out-of-school time program, or you're a business that wants to meet out-of-school time programs and work in youth development, then I would invite you to express interest in our community of practice. So we're launching a community of practice around these resources. We're going to meet virtually. So it's not going to be something you have to drive to in person on a regular basis. I'm going to say probably monthly or bi-monthly. And we're going to discuss ways to implement and use the playbook. We're going to dig into that career connected learning framework. We're going to explore other career connected resources for out of school time spaces. We will celebrate successes and troubleshoot challenges faced by community members. It's going to be open to our out of school time providers and to industry partners. So if you are interested, I'm going to ask you to please fill out a short survey. It's really just getting your contact information and helping us understand who you serve, so I can keep you on the list as I get this community of practice kind of kicked off. I want to thank our sponsors who helped make STEMCO happen and this playbook happen. And I'm going to open the floor to questions. I've been talking at you all for a very long time now.